July 27, 1944. Near Saint-Lagast, Normandy, France, an 8.8mm shell crashed into the Sherman tank's hull with a metallic scream. It should have meant certain death for the 5 crew members inside. The Panther gunner from the 2nd SS Panzer Division, Das Reich, watched through his sights. He anticipated the flames that usually followed a successful hit. Target destroyed. The driver moved 20 meters forward to get a better angle on the second tank, but the expected fire never erupted. The turret of the Sherman turned toward them. Its 76mm gun sought retribution. The German loader, already reaching for another round, paused in confusion. That American tank should have been ablaze by now. Every training manual, every bit of combat experience from Russia to Africa, all the intelligence they had, said so. What the Panther crew saw that morning represented a shift in tank warfare that German forces had not recognized. The M4A376W Sherman they encountered was equipped with a Wet-Stowage ammunition system. This system featured double-walled storage bins filled with 38 gallons of fire-suppressing liquid. It prevented the catastrophic ammunition fires that German gunners had relied on since 1942. This modification, present in every Sherman tank produced after January 1944, cut the likelihood of fire after a hit from 60 to 80%, down to just 10 to 15%. That morning, the 2nd Armored Division was attacking with 104 of these upgraded Shermans. Not a single German intelligence report, not one briefing from the Wehrmacht, and not even whispered rumors from the front had alerted German tank crews that their main tactical assumption about American armor was now dangerously outdated. The change began in the wake of a catastrophe. February 14, 1943, at Kasserine Pass, Tunisia. American tanks burned across the valley floor. M4 Shermans became crematoriums under the fire of German 8.8mm guns. Out of 300 American tanks engaged, 183 were destroyed. Many were consumed by ammunition fires that killed entire crews in seconds. The British Operational Research Section found that 65% of knocked-out Shermans burned completely. American studies showed even higher figures, reaching up to 80% in some battles. The Ordnance Department's Tank Automotive Center examined every knocked-out Sherman in North Africa. Their conclusion was clear. Ammunition propellant, not gasoline, caused most of the fires. More than 70 rounds stored in open racks throughout the fighting compartment became instant incendiaries when hit by hot steel fragments. The solution came through an iterative design process. A chemical engineer from DuPont suggested at a tank board meeting in November 1943 that surrounding ammunition with liquid might help. Initial ideas seemed absurd. They contemplated filling the entire fighting compartment with water, creating compartments similar to submarines. However, through development, the idea evolved into a more practical design. They created double-walled ammunition containers with liquid-filled cavities placed in the hull floor, away from likely impact points. By December 1943, Press Steel Car Company in Pennsylvania began retooling its assembly lines. The first M4A176W rolled off the line on January 3, 1944. The W designation stood for wet, although few beyond the factory understood its importance. Testing at Aberdeen Proving Ground validated the design beyond expectations. In controlled tests, technicians fired captured German 75 and 88mm guns at ammunition bins. Dry storage detonated in 73% of hits. In contrast, wet storage ignited only in 15% of cases. Films of the tests, classified until 1963, showed the dramatic difference. Dry ammunition erupted in flames, while wet storage produced small smoke puffs that quickly extinguished with the spreading liquid. The modification was extensive. Each ammunition bin had concentric, double-walled cells holding 10 rounds. The space between the walls was initially filled with water, then with a water glycol mixture, and finally with a specialized solution called Amudamp. The chemistry was crucial. Pure water froze in winter. Glycol prevented freezing but caused corrosion. Amudamp, which is a blend of ethyl sodium and potassium phosphate, solved both issues while still providing fire suppression. The M4A176W could carry 100 rounds in floor storage, plus 4 ready rounds, protected by 37 gallons in total. The 76mm variant stored 71 rounds with 36.6 gallons of protection. This system added 900 pounds to the tank's weight, but dramatically improved its survivability. By April 1944, 130 M4A1 76W Shermans had arrived in England. The 2nd and 3rd Armored Divisions each received 52 of these tanks, although initial deployment faced delays. Concerns over training with the new 76mm gun and ammunition supply logistics kept them off the D-Day landings. These improved Shermans would first see combat during Operation Cobra. On July 25, 1944, Operation Cobra began at 0938 hours. It featured the largest aerial bombardment in tactical support history. As the smoke lifted from the carpet bombing, American armored units advanced through the gap at Saint-Lô. The leading forces included the 2nd and 3rd Armored Divisions, which had the first Wet-Stowage Shermans in combat in Europe. The German Panzer Division, severely impacted by the bombardment, set up surviving Panthers in ambush positions. After-action reports from the German command, captured when their headquarters was overrun, showed increasing confusion about the durability of American tanks. The Panthers penetrated the Shermans from advantageous ranges. However, many Shermans continued to fight or retreated under their own power instead of burning as expected. The German crews did not realize they were facing M4A376W and M4176W Shermans from the 67th and 33rd Armored Regiments. Many tanks that the Germans believed were destroyed returned to action within 48 hours after quick repairs. Tanks that did burn were usually hit in the engine compartment. The ammunition protection functioned as intended. German defensive strategies, based on expectations of American tank losses, fell short when faced with these protected Shermans. The tanks survived at rates that took the Germans by surprise. Counterattacks were launched under the assumption that the weakened American spearheads would face greater resistance than anticipated. The engineering behind this protection was a remarkable achievement of wartime innovation. Each storage bin consisted of specially designed double-walled containers with 1.5 inches of space between the inner and outer shells. This gap held about half a gallon of liquid in every 10-round cell. The development process moved quickly by military standards. Initial tests of water-only systems in October 1943 proved the concept but uncovered issues. These included freezing in cold weather, corrosion of brass cartridge cases, and bacterial growth in stagnant water. Adding ethylene glycol addressed freezing issues but led to faster corrosion. The final product, Amidamp, included ethyl sodium potassium phosphate along with rust inhibitors and biocides. This mixture remained liquid at temperatures down to -40 degrees Fahrenheit, curbed corrosion, reduced bacterial growth, and improved fire suppression compared to plain water. Each tank needed initial filling and periodic level checking through inspection ports. According to Ordnance Department records, the system's effectiveness was notable. The modification exceeded expectations. When shell fragments breached the bin, liquid would pour out. It would soak any exposed propellant and prevent ignition. Even if some propellant caught fire, the liquid would stop it from spreading to other rounds. This single change turned total loss into minor damage. At the Kumdorf Proving Ground, German technical intelligence analyzed American armor using samples captured in Tunisia before Wet-Stowage was introduced. They focused on M4A1 tanks from the 1st Armored Division that were captured at Kairouan in February 1943. German technical reports detailed every aspect of the Sherman design. They documented armor composition, engine performance, transmission characteristics, and ammunition storage. Intelligence bulletins sent to panzer units included detailed drawings of ammunition rack placements in sponsons above the track level. They recommended targeting these areas for the greatest impact. This intelligence became standard doctrine for all panzer units. Gunnery schools from Pforzheim to Paderborn trained students to aim for Sherman sponsons. Range cards for anti-tank units marked these areas in red. The tactical doctrine was so ingrained that even when hits to sponsons did not cause fires, crews thought they simply missed the ammunition. This misunderstanding proved disastrous for German forces. Their detailed analysis of Shermans concluded just as American factories began producing modified versions. Every intelligence update referred back to the older evaluation as the standard. When frontline units reported that Shermans were surviving unusually well, staff officers dismissed these claims as exaggerations from stressed troops. The shift in American tank production in early 1944 demonstrated an unprecedented level of industrial coordination in warfare. Fisher Tank Arsenal in Grand Blanc, Michigan, switched from M4A to M4A3 production, incorporating new modifications without halting the production line. Between February 1944 and March 1945, Fisher produced 3,775 M4A3 tanks. The hull floors needed a complete redesign to fit ammunition bins below the turret basket. This redesign required new stamping dies, modified welding jigs, and changes in assembly sequences. The partial turret basket, which replaced the full rotating floor to allow access to hull ammunition, necessitated a redesign of the entire turret traverse. Hydraulic lines, electrical cables, and control linkages needed rerouting for the new ammunition positions. The Pressed Steel Car Company, located in Pennsylvania, reached similar production milestones. They began manufacturing the M4A76W in January 1944, producing 3,426 units by July 1945. They integrated the ammunition system with the new 76mm gun installation. This larger weapon required turret modifications, different ammunition, and a new weight distribution. By June 1944, American factories were only making wet-stowage variants. The transition was so smooth that German intelligence, working from outdated captured tanks, remained unaware of the significant change. The hedgerows of Normandy became an unintended testing ground for the effectiveness of these modifications. The uneven terrain forced combat at ranges where German guns easily penetrated Sherman armor. Yet, American tank losses turned out to be surprisingly recoverable. The maintenance battalions of the Third Army reported recovering and repairing 67% of knocked-out Shermans during Operation Cobra. Of tanks that would have been total fire losses with dry storage, about 70% returned to service with the new protective system. This unseen boost in American tank strength confused German planning at all levels. German commanders expressed their frustration in war diaries about American tanks seemingly having endless reserves. Panthers could achieve hits and even penetrations, but many were not resulting in permanent kills. American maintenance units recovered tanks that German crews believed were destroyed, repaired them, and sent them back into combat. The mathematical model that German staff used to calculate enemy strength based on permanent losses from ammunition fires no longer worked. Major General Maurice Rose's 3rd Armored Division led the assault with about 200 improved Shermans. During 7 days of fierce combat, the division advanced 100 miles, fought numerous engagements, and maintained operational momentum despite German counterattacks intended to destroy American armor. The German response was Operation Ludisch, the Morton counteroffensive, launched on August 7th with 4 panzer divisions aimed at cutting off American spearheads. The plan assumed that American armored units would be exhausted and depleted after their rapid advance. German intelligence underestimated the situation. The American tank strength was estimated to be at 60% of actual numbers. This assessment did not account for the recovered and repaired Shermans that had been saved by the modifications. The 30th Infantry Division, stationed at Morta, was supported by tank battalions using modified Shermans. They effectively shattered the German offensive capability. The 743rd Tank Battalion faced repeated assaults from Waffen-SS and Wehrmacht panzer units. Despite enduring numerous penetrations, the battalion maintained its cohesion and combat effectiveness over the 6-day battle. The Battle of Ericourt in September 1944 provided a clear demonstration of the new battlefield reality. When the 113th Panzer Brigade attacked American positions on September 19th, they aimed for tactical surprise and sought to destroy American tanks with their superior gunnery. The initial German assault successfully hit several Shermans from the 4th Armored Division. Both Panthers and Panzer IVs reported multiple penetrations at advantageous ranges against American tanks. However, the response from the Americans was unexpected. Rather than withdrawing after significant losses, the 4th Armored Division mounted a counterattack with surprising strength. The statistics reveal the outcome. During the battles at Aracourt, the 4th Armored Division lost 151 Shermans. However, only 41 of those were total losses. The remaining 110 tanks were repaired and returned to active duty, mostly within a week. German intelligence, marking all 151 as permanent losses, believed that the 4th Armored Division should have been ineffective in combat. Contrary to that belief, they continued their offensive operations. General Patton's initial doubts about the 76mm Shermans changed after Aracourt. The Third Army then accepted only the 76mm armed versions with Wet-Stowage, understanding that better firepower and enhanced survivability resulted in superior combat capability. As autumn 1944 unfolded, second-generation improved Shermans entered combat. The M4A3E8 EZ8 included lessons learned, featuring an improved suspension and wider tracks for better mobility despite the added weight. It also had refined ammunition storage for easier crew access. These tanks began to reach frontline units in October 1944. The specialized assault variant, the M4A3E2 Jumbo, incorporated Wet-Stowage from its initial production starting in June 1944. With frontal armor measuring 4 inches and turret armor reaching 6 inches, the Jumbo could withstand considerable punishment. When combined with ammunition protection, these tanks achieved survival rates that astonished observers. German observers noted that by November 1944, First Army had deployed 105 M4A3E2 tanks across various battalions. The Third Army had 90 of these tanks in 6 battalions. These robust tanks led assaults on fortified positions, enduring damage that would have destroyed entire companies of older Shermans. Operation Watch on the Rhine, Germany's final desperate push in the West, began on December 16, 1944. This offensive was based on incorrect intelligence regarding American armored strength. German plans erroneously assumed that American tank losses would mirror those of 1943. The success of the offensive hinged on quickly eliminating American armored reserves. German strategists believed that concentrated panzer attacks would dismantle American tank units piece by piece. Their plans relied on the traditional vulnerabilities of Sherman tanks. However, when protected, Shermans proved far more resilient than expected. This unexpected strength caused the operational timeline to fail. SS Obersturmbannführer Hans-Peter Peiper's group, leading the attack of the 1st SS Panzer Division, faced this reality near Staumont on December 19th. His Panthers managed to penetrate American Shermans of the 743rd Tank Battalion at close range, yet American resistance remained strong. In post-war interrogations, Peiper expressed frustration that American tanks continued to fight after sustaining hits that should have destroyed them. The 761st Tank Battalion, known as the African American Black Panthers, showcased these advantages during their 183 days of continuous combat, including in the fighting in the Ardennes. Staff Sergeant Reuben Rivers, who was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously, demonstrated this survivability. His tank absorbed 2 direct hits on November 19th that penetrated the hull but did not ignite the ammunition. Rivers continued to fight despite his injuries, and his crew survived hits that would have killed them in earlier Sherman models. As 1945 began, German forces increasingly captured intact Shermans with Wet-Stowage. Operation Nordwind led to the capture of numerous M4A3 tanks from the 43rd Tank Battalion near Hatton. In January, German crews operated these captured vehicles for several days without realizing the importance of the liquid-filled ammunition containers. By early 1945, the Technical Intelligence Branch had effectively ceased to function. The few remaining technical specialists were focused on desperate wonder weapon projects rather than analyzing enemy equipment. Even if the frontline troops had understood the importance of the modification, there was no way to process and share this information. The United States Army's Operations Research Office documented this change in their post-war study. Before the modification, Shermans burned in 60 to 80% of penetrating hits. The Wet-Stowage variants, on the other hand, only burned in 10 to 15% of cases. This significant reduction increased American armored effectiveness without anyone noticing. A tank battalion with 50 Shermans facing 30 penetrating hits would have lost 18 to 24 tanks to fire with dry storage. However, with wet stowage, only 3 to 5 would burn, leaving 25 to 27 still functional. This allowed the battalion to maintain combat effectiveness rather than needing complete reconstitution. Across the European theater, this advantage added up strategically. Conservative estimates suggest the modification prevented burn damage in at least 1,000 tanks, saving 5,000 trained crew members and allowing dozens of battalions to remain combat-ready. German planning never accounted for these facts. Every operational plan relied on outdated information about the Sherman's vulnerability. This systematic error was repeated in thousands of engagements, contributing directly to the German defeat. Post-war interrogations and memoirs confirm this intelligence gap. No German account from the war years mentions awareness of this modification. Otto Arius, who destroyed over 150 enemy tanks, wrote extensively about fighting Shermans, but did not mention anything about their unusual fire resistance. Ernst Barkman's account of his well-known stand never expresses surprise at Sherman's surviving hits. Unit histories created by veteran associations offer more evidence. Histories of Panzer Lehr, the 2nd SS Panzer Division, and the 116th Panzer Division do not acknowledge improved Sherman survivability. These histories are not official records subject to censorship, but rather personal memories shared among comrades. The failure to recognize wet stowage represents one of the most complete intelligence breakdowns in modern warfare. Several factors contributed to this blind spot. German technical evaluations of Sherman tanks were conducted using models captured before the modification existed. By the time wet stowage Shermans entered combat, German forces were in a defensive position with limited opportunities to gather systematic technical intelligence. Field observations did not reach analysts. German technical intelligence was fragmented across competing agencies, which struggled to share information. Due to limited resources, captured vehicles were put into service without evaluation. Cultural factors, like a strong belief in German technical superiority, led to a reduced need for thorough analysis of enemy equipment. The modification's subtlety was key. It did not alter the Sherman's outer look, did not require new tactics, and did not announce its presence. German intelligence, focused on significant changes, overlooked the quiet evolution happening within American tanks. The story of wet stowage offers valuable lessons. Technical intelligence must be constantly updated. The enemy studied in the past may not be the same enemy in the present. Innovations don't have to be groundbreaking to be important. Small improvements that address specific problems can be more beneficial than major redesigns. For military engineers, this modification illustrates effective design principles. Identify the issue, create a practical solution, and implement it during production. A modification that can be applied immediately may outweigh a perfect solution that takes years to develop. Intelligence services can learn from this about potential analytical blind spots. The enemy capability that seems unlikely could turn out to be decisive in warfare, where information is like ammunition. A failure in intelligence can be as deadly as a mechanical failure. The wet stowage ammunition system of the Sherman tank decreased the chance of catastrophic fire by 75%, saving thousands of lives. However, its most significant achievement was that it remained unnoticed by German forces during the critical final year of World War II. From its introduction in January 1944 to the end of the war in May 1945, numerous American armored operations relied on a large number of improved Shermans. German forces faced these tanks from Operation Cobra until the last defense of the Reich, capturing and using hundreds without realizing the enhancement. American engineers created this system to save lives, not trick the enemy. Yet its stealthiness to German intelligence amplified its effectiveness beyond measure. The modification confirmed American design philosophy. Swiftly implemented practical solutions proved to be superior to the German pursuit of technical perfection. History marks wet stowage as a vital technical advancement that contributed to victory in World War II. It is important to recognize this change for its stealthy nature. It won through enemy unawareness just as much as through American ingenuity. German tank crews were engaged in battles against an unseen foe, relying on outdated strategies based on incorrect beliefs. As a result, they faced defeat. This modification not only protected American soldiers, but also helped end the war. It preserved American armored strength, which in turn hastened German losses. This hidden advantage spread across countless battles. It reveals one of the most astonishing yet overlooked stories of World War II. A simple change made a significant difference while remaining unseen by those who needed to recognize it.